Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Travel Coffee Break. It's going to be one of those tricky ones, I think, this week. I'll get rid of the screen there. We'd planned, and you probably know that from all the pre-publicity and the event, we had planned to talk about the Ripple movement, which is a really interesting new development, a new way of storytelling that our friend and colleague Dylan Lowe and one or two colleagues of his have come up with. And the idea is really that you can put together a project and have a number of different bloggers all contributing different kinds of material from different locations, and it's kind of all drawn together in a sort of a map-based form of storytelling, and it looks really, really fascinating. Do go along and have a look at what you can see at the website, which is ripplemovement.com. All one word, theripplemovement.com, and you'll get an idea for it. But we were hoping, and are still hoping, that he was going to be able to join us, and that's because he's actually out at the moment at the FITUR travel trade show in Madrid. So we knew that there was always going to be the possibility of having a difficult time with Wi-Fi and the like. He did about 20 minutes ago have Wi-Fi. He was in a little cafe somewhere next door to the FITUR exhibition centre and ready to go, and then it died, and he rushed back to the press centre to see if he could get back onto theirs, because he thought it probably wasn't going to be used that much at this time, and he's not having any luck. So we may, or we may not, see Dylan shortly, which leaves Mike and I. Hi, Mike. Mike. Mike Young, as you'll know, is my co-presenter on Travel Coffee Break, and is very welcome, because without him I'd be monologuing again, hoping that Dylan could join me. But instead, what I was going to say, Mike, is I haven't seen you for a little bit. What have you been up to in the past week?
Past week we went a little bit more to Amsterdam. We went back to the Van Gogh Museum. They actually redid the Van Gogh Museum and organized it in a slightly different manner now. They kind of have it organized per this timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And what you'll see is you'll go into different rooms, and each room is a certain period of time. And you'll see the works, of course, that Van Gogh did during that period, but you'll see other contemporaries of his, other works that were created around the same time that influenced him and influenced the style. And it's done quite well. One of the things you'll also see, I've never seen in a museum before, a lot of times artists recycled their canvases and used the front and back of the canvases, but when you go to the museum, you only see the more famous piece, or the more well-known piece presented. And that's because they put the frame directly on the wall. Well, a few of the exhibits in the Van Gogh Museum, they actually had them, instead of flat on the wall, they had them on the side, like this.
Oh,
so you can see one piece here, and you could see the other piece here. Now, the backside piece may be upside or down, or might be turned sideways, but you can at least see that work. So what they have is they have these glass cabinets or enclosures, as you can imagine, that attach on the wall, where you can actually view the works from both sides. And that was really quite creative. I've never seen that before, and you know, there's at least 4 paintings that you can see both the front and back side.
And any good?
Yeah, no, it's really good. You know,
I mean, the quality of the it's a bit like you remember old vinyl singles. It's the B side.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so some of them you'll see some of the work. I think one of them was the study of the potato eaters, so it was a smaller size. Maybe the painting was about this large. So it wasn't a masterpiece, but at least you got to see that. And then on the other side, he had possibly I don't remember the specifics on that one painting, but I think it was a self-portrait on the other side. But you got to see these paintings that were never really visible before. And the other thing I thought that was interesting is they have a fair amount of works by his contemporaries that are fairly well known. Of course, they have a lot of the Gauguins, so they have several of the Gauguins there. But there's an awful lot of work that they kind of put in at this time period. So as you're going through, you'll kind of see the neo-impressionist work and what he's doing with that. Then you'll also see when he goes out to Arles and to south of France, you'll see some of the other artists' work during that same time period and things that influenced him. And yeah, no, I was real impressed. I had been to the Van Gogh Museum, I think, 2 or 3 times previous to this.
I remember you talking about it when we were doing one of your city guide presentations on Amsterdam, and you were talking about it then and saying what a good museum it is.
Yeah, but it's much better now. I mean, you know, when you go to the Van Gogh Museum, obviously you're going to see works by Van Gogh. But I know in the past it was laid out in such a way that was more, instead of by a certain timeline, it was more by, I think, more of what the work was, whether it was the south of France or whether it was still life. And now it's all based on the time frame in which he created those works. And they do a good job of kind of also letting you know what was going on in his life during that time period. In other words, was he in Noonan when he did this, or was he, you know, where was he in Paris when he did this, that, or was he in the south of France, or, you know, was he over in the mental institution right before, you know, he died. So they do a good job with that. There's also another portion of the museum where it's just presenting the works and some of the letters to his brother Theo, and you get to see kind of that family connection. They have a kind of like a family tree that shows his mother and his father and photographs of them and his sisters and his siblings. So you see that. You see a lot of his not all of the letters he wrote, but you'll see some of the ones that are highlighted where he talks about specific things. So there's a whole level just kind of based on that, and also how he corresponded with the other artists as well. Wow. So instead of just showing off the artwork, they're actually showing off the whole collection, because you remember when the museum was established, it wasn't just the artworks, it was all the letters that was included with the foundation that established the museum.
But now they're linked together contextually.
Exactly. So it's like I said, it's done really, really nice. And of course, if you look in the back right now on the temporary exhibit wing, they had put that together, I guess, maybe about 15 years ago, and now it's also kind of a mess. There's construction all in between. What they're doing is they're changing the entrance from the front of the museum, which was opposite of Museum Plain, and now they're bringing it kind of in between the newer wing and the existing building, and you're entering there, and I think you're probably going downstairs, very similar to what happens in the Rijksmuseum. Okay. So it's all kind of below level, and in the Dutch museums, even the Matthäus House over in Den Haag has done this as well. They've all excavated below the museum and have this entrance below ground, and then you come up. So they're gaining more real estate by going below ground level.
And also, I imagine it probably makes it more accessible as well. Brian Seaman will be, if he was watching today, he would be asking, you know, about accessibility and ramps and lifts and things like that.
I'm assuming so. You know, all of these new museums are accessible to people in wheelchairs or handicapped people as well. So, yeah, I know the current museum is fairly accessible. There's a ramp that leads up into the entrance. But what happens is, you know, it all queues outside, so you got all of these people waiting to get their tickets, and there's no covering. And I think now what they're trying to do is, you know, because we are in the Netherlands, and of course the weather isn't always great here. I think it rains here more than it does in Seattle. But they're trying to bring that queue.
Impossible.
Yeah, that queue inside under, you know, in a climate-controlled condition is what I gather. I've only saw some the architect's rendition of it. I haven't seen what's actually there, but I'm assuming that that's what they're doing, is getting that queue inside and getting them out of the cold, wet weather. But it looks like it's definitely moving in the right direction, and I'm hoping sometime this year I'll actually be able to see Museum Plain without any type of construction vehicles at all, because it's been a long time. Every time I go there since I've moved here, there's either been the Rijksmuseum or the Van Gogh Museum or the Stedelijk Museum, And I think hopefully this year we might be able to see the museum plane with no construction vehicles at all on the
Cool.
museum plane.
Cool.
For the
Well,
first.
we're still hoping that Dylan's going to be able to join us, but there's no sign of him yet. I suppose we should give him a few more minutes at least. I was going to say that between last week and today, I've been away too. I went down to Milan for the British Guild of Travel Writers AGM, but it's a city that I've not been to before. I don't know. Have you been there, Mike?
We went about 3 years ago, I believe.
Is it? Do you have a guide to it?
Yeah, but it's right when we started, so there's only a handful of items on it. We don't have a whole lot there, so it's not up to the same level as what we're doing with the other cities. But yeah, I believe we have maybe 4 or 5 posts there of Milan.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll tell you what. I might just show you some of the stuff that I took while I was there. Nothing like as good as your normal slideshow, Mike, but it might trigger some memories for you as well. This is I flew in on Saturday. Fantastic weather we had. Can you see that one? That's the wing.
Yeah, no, it looks a lot better than here.
Fantastic weather, and it was like that literally the whole time we were there, apart from one brief moment when I was down at the cathedral, and it just clouded over for a short while and then opened up again. But you can see in the background here the Alps. It shows you, how close Milan is to the Alps. This is going into the Malpensa Airport. I'm just trying to think of, is there a way of actually slide showing these? I'm not sure. This is the Malpensa Airport, which you will undoubtedly have said in your guide is the one that's long distance, shall we say, from the centre of Milan. It's about.
I remember flying. It was like, I think, over like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's about 50 kilometres. It depends on the traffic, because around Milan itself, the traffic gets really snarled up, but it can be that long. And of course, meanwhile, on the outskirts of Milan is the Linate Airport, which the old one, which is still operational, and into which EasyJet fly once a day. So if you've got a choice going to Milan, you might want to consider that one instead. Hotel room we're not interested in. These trams I absolutely adore. You know me, I'm a tram man. I like trams, and the whole city's full of trams. These are built sometime around 1914, 1915, that early part of the 20th century, and then lovingly restored, and they're full of really nice woodwork. I expect their electric motors have been rewound a few hundred times since.
I was going to ask you about that. All the seats are wood on these, with kind of like the brass handles on them.
Yes, they are. I should say there are also modern trams as well, which are better, and some trams are a conversion of both, if you see what I mean. They'll have their original exterior, but more up-to-date interiors. This is, he said, looking for a good one of it. This is the central station, which you don't really get a sense of it here, but it is absolutely astonishing when you get there. Built by Mussolini, and obviously he's compensating for something of small size, because this is so big. It's difficult to get your head around it. It's a huge central station, and this is just the front, and it goes way, way, way back. And we just had our hotel was next door to it, so we walked past it quite a lot. But it is absolutely on a vast scale and very impressive and worth seeing by itself. I don't know if you did you see that when you were?
We did, actually, and our hotel was actually not too far from the train station as well. We had the fortunate/unfortunate incident that when we booked our trip to Milan, it was right in the middle of Fashion Week. And we were like, because we booked it, and we were like, all right, we've got our flights. We started looking for hotels, and it's like, oh my God, there's no hotel rooms available. Well, it was Fashion Week. So we ended up staying actually not too far from the that central station there in Milan. Yeah, I remember walking outside and thinking, "Oh my God, this thing is huge."
It is absolutely fantastic, and because it's now full of shopping opportunities and the like, as well as trains. Speaking of fashion, these two guys, I just happened to snap them because they are just, well, way cooler than I could ever be. I mean, just and that was it was interesting because most of my colleagues from the guild there were 80 travel writers from the guild all there, and many of them were saying actually they were quite relieved because those who hadn't been there before were saying that they had anticipated looking decidedly scruffy by comparison to the Milanese, and in fact it's not quite. You do see some extremely fashionable people, but it's not quite as bad as you might think. Not everybody is a fashion icon. This is a temporary structure at the moment because Expo, yeah, Expo is coming up in the summer. It'll be running through. Off the top of my head, from May through to October, I think it is, but I will check that up and put that on the website. I've got to do some write-ups on that anyway. And the theme is food. So they have a huge site they're building on the outskirts of the city, and there will be, I think it's 12 pavilions there with I forget how many countries now exhibiting, and each of those will be really showcasing their strengths. So it may be coffee, or it may be bananas, or it may be cereals, or whatever. And it sounds perhaps not riveting and fantastic, and you think, oh my kid's going to be interested in this, but actually there will be a lot of stuff for kids to do in particular, and they're billing it as the world's biggest restaurant, which it undoubtedly will be, because they're going to be catering for thousands of people every day. So that'll be really dramatic. I did get a chance, and I don't know if you managed to do this. I did get a chance to see the Last Supper. Did you?
No, unfortunately, we weren't able to do that. When we planned everything, we were real pressed for time, and I know on here you have to kind of prep for it, and we weren't able to get in and to see it. So unfortunately, we missed that. So I'm certainly very envious of you having to being able to take a view of the Last Supper.
We were very lucky, to be honest. We were there. It was on a Monday, and the chapel, the refectory where it was painted, is not open to the public on Mondays. But it just so happened that we knew some people in high places who heard that we were keen to see it, so we had a special private showing, which was spectacular. But this isn't the real thing. This is just a quick shot I snapped of the of this reproduction on the wall in the exit room from the refectory, because they are absolutely fastidious about people not photographing it. I think probably for fear of flashes going off accidentally, and that wears it out. And the fact is that it is, since over the centuries, it has been deteriorating away all the time, and it's gone through numerous sort of kind of repaints and touch-ups and so on, most of which they tried now to kind of minimize. So there's still fragments. They reckon somewhere around sort of maybe 15% of it is still the original stuff that Leonardo painted, but it is deteriorating all the time, and for that reason it's extraordinary. When you go in there, you can only go in small groups of 15 people, and you go through literally a series of airlocks to get into the main refectory, and then you come out through an airlock as well. So they're very keen on trying to minimize the impact of pollution from the Milanese atmosphere. A lot of cars in Milan, and from visitors as well. So that was really extraordinary. It is. If you're going to Milan and you want to see it, you do need to book up in advance and some distance in advance to be able to get in, as you can imagine, with small groups like that of 15 only. But the one thing you can do, and again, I'm really guessing that that this is something you did when you were there, Mike, is go and see the Duomo, the cathedral, which is spectacular. And now I'm not a cathedrals man. Normally, cathedrals for me to a penny. Well, apart from anything else, because every city has one. But this is the world's 5th largest cathedral. It's Italy's largest, and if you'll remember, Mike, it is pretty amazing, isn't it?
Well, unfortunately on that trip as well, we were real pressed for time. We went on the outside, but we weren't able to go inside, so we missed that as well. I think we ended up catching it each time. It was a little bit too late, so we did tour the castle, but from the outside, it's definitely Milan is kind of a neat city, and definitely in front of the Duomo, it's a nice area there.
It is. It's not easy to get into it because again, they try and control the numbers, and you have to go around to the side on this side where I'm mousing over to get your tickets to go in, or as we did up, which is great fun because you can get up onto the roof of the cathedral, and up there it is absolutely spectacular because they have something like. How many spires was it? 200 spires and thousands of statues. I mean, every nook and cranny has a statue in it, and that is unbelievable. So, here we all are up on at the top. There's a lift that goes up. It's quite cramped. You can only take a few people at a time, and we've just sort of gathered there. But if you see here, for example, you can wander around quite easily and along this sort of this level here before then going up onto the very top. But you can see you see all these spires here, just loads of them, every one with a saint. It's a extraordinary, absolutely extraordinary building, so intricate, and of course it was created in, I'm not quite sure what the stone is, but it's a soft stone, which is what enables them to create so many statues so easily. Say easily, it took 6 centuries to build, but the result is, of course, they have to spend an awful lot of time actually maintaining it. So here are the stonemasons. Just finishing the day's work and going back down again. There are whole sections that you can see the marble is all much lighter coloured than the rest of it because it's obviously been replaced in the last few years. So it is. Here's the very top of the roof here.
Wow.
It is absolutely spectacular. So if you get the chance to do that, you really must. Here's the views out, the sunset coming down on some of their tall buildings over there, and you could see, but not very clearly. This is the day when I said that it clouded over just for a little while. If it wasn't for those clouds, you'd be able to see the Alps there being picked out in the light. So yeah, and this is the view down onto the square from up there. So quite spectacular. So yeah, overall, I thought it was a brilliant trip. I was really impressed. I think the thing that I hadn't quite realized was, there were 2 things that struck me. One was particularly the number of buildings that were really very beautiful buildings that were still there. I mean, this is a sort of typical street just near where we were. These sorts of buildings absolutely dominate Milan, and I thought that it had been bombed more during the Second World War and had more modern buildings, but in fact the centre of the town seems to have got away with it. So that's really encouraging. And the other thing is that I hadn't realised just how big it is. When I go away, I tend to, as a first thing, I tend to go and look at Google Maps and work out, where I am and where I'm going and what I'm going to be doing. So I knew some of the places we were going to, and I was thinking, well, that's just a few blocks away down there. And then we'd get on a coach, and it would take half an hour to get there. And I got the feeling it's a bit more like London than it is, Glasgow or, for that matter, Amsterdam. It seemed to be always much bigger than I expected. So it's a bit like, your hotel would be in Islington, and you'd be going off to view something like the cathedral in Chelsea. It wasn't just around the corner. So so that struck me, and I don't know again when you were there if that's how you felt about it.
Well, most of the places we stayed, we were within walking distance. So, like I said, we were there during Fashion Week, so we walked around, and not that I'm a big person into fashion, but when you're at a place during Fashion Week, it'd be silly not to at least see what's going on and see, all of the paparazzi going around, all of catching maybe a glimpse at a few supermodels or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so we spent not a large portion, but we definitely spent a portion of our time
Stalking
walking in that area, just kind of looking and seeing what it would be like, and that was fascinating. I think we went to the castle and toured the castle,
Yep.
and we also toured. There was a museum near the castle as well that we went to. We toured. And I think we were only there a day and a half. We were there for a limited period of time. But yeah, it was a nice place to go. We enjoyed our visit there.
Yeah, the castle. There's a photograph up here of here's the castle. This is just the front side of it, and it's in the centre of town, and it's huge and quite spectacular. And again, definitely worth going along and taking a look at that. In fact, I do have a couple of shots I did take inside it, but I'm not sure I can see them quickly. He said, no. So
yeah, that was definitely a good tour. I enjoyed the castle tour.
So I'm just looking for. Normally it gives me an. Oh, here we are. More. Right. Okay. There must be. Where's the more? Oh yes. There's some. I love these images of the statues. They're just. They're great from the top of the cathedral. Yeah, the castle. Here we are. Here's inside the castle. This is our guide, Cesare, showing us the map of here, and this is the castle bit. Here you can see it's quite a large structure, and here down, next to where we were standing just there, you can see what the inside looks like. This is part of the courtyard. So yes, definitely worth going along and taking a look at that. We haven't seen any sign. He said, trying to get back to the hangout. Where are we? Get rid of that. There we are. Haven't seen any sign of poor old Dylan, who we were hoping was going to be able to join us. So maybe he'll be able to do it next week. I know that he's just sort of going live with the Ripple movement, and so this would have been a good time to talk about it. But a week behind is neither here nor there, really. So maybe with any luck, if he's back in the UK or back somewhere with reliable Wi-Fi, he will join us then, and we can perhaps go through it then. So sorry if you were joining us just to see that, and what you got was an extended blather about both Amsterdam and Milan, but that's the way the cookie crumbles with Hangouts. Mike, you were saying that you're away next week because oh yes, you're going back to New Orleans, aren't you?
Going back to New Orleans, yeah.
To update your guide to New Orleans, and
exactly.
Also it's home territory for you as well.
That's correct. Yeah, I'm gonna spend some time with my family there, but also going to places that I haven't been to or spent much time in. I've been once to Noma, and I'm going this time again to Noma. And we're going to do the Degas House. I'm going to do the Ogden. I'm going to do the World War II Museum, which I haven't been there. Do that. Yeah, so I have a full agenda booked for New Orleans and for the kind of the surrounding area.
Okay, I understand that the United States is really quite an advanced country, and they do have the internet there. So I might just send you an invite when we're getting ready to start next week, on the off chance that if you're by your laptop.
Yeah, it's possible. I know. Yeah, it's possible that if I'm at home, I know it's. I think we're going to be hitting at 11 o'clock is when because we're in Central Standard Time.
Yep.
In New Orleans. So if I'm home and I'm available, I'll do that. But I know on Wednesday I got some stuff planned, and then the flight back is at Wednesday, and I think we actually depart at 11 something. So I'll probably be on the plane.
Yeah, in-flight Wi-Fi is notoriously difficult.
Yeah, so
Transatlantic.
I'm flying United, so I'm not sure how good the Wi-Fi is or not, but we'll
That would
see.
be fun. Well, listen, what I'll do is I'll as usual, when I launch the Hangout next week, I'll just include you in the invitation circle, and then if it pops up and you pop up, that will be an extra added bonus. But obviously, we're not really expecting it, so that would be good. Anyway, in the meantime, I think we've given Dylan a fair chance. That's 31 minutes we've been rabbiting on. So for now, I think we'll probably better leave it. Have a great time in New Orleans, Mike, and see you when you get back, or maybe before.
Yeah, no, that sounds great. Like I said, I'll send you a few link emails and whatnot, and maybe if we do something at a different time, doing something outside of New Orleans would be definitely fun.
Okay, definitely. Or you could start a hangout, and I'll join it.
Maybe, yeah, we'll see.
Okay. All right, then. Well, I'll be
All right,
back
take care.
anyway. I'll be back at the usual time at 5 o'clock next Wednesday. I expect, hopefully, I will have maybe Dylan with us. And if not, then there will be another subject. I don't think our other regular guest is joining us next week either. That's Malcolm Ginsberg. He's the aviation expert. He's, I think, away for 2 weeks from my memory. So it'll be me and whoever next week. Same time, same place. Until then, bye for now.
Yeah.